Okay, how's everybody feeling? I know we're between you and your beer and non-alcoholic drink of choice. So welcome everyone, and thank you to the organizers of PlatformCon. Okay, so as we begin, I would always like the panelists to introduce themselves because they're less likely to mispronounce their own name and better at self-identifying what they're bringing today. So I want to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself and then answer briefly, which is the trick there, if AI should be part of platform engineering or should platform engineering be part of AI? What's the difference? Ina?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ina. I'm here as a staff platform engineer. I work for an energy company based in the US. And I guess I'm here because I'm excited about both of those topics. And I believe the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. AI should be involved in platform engineering, and platform engineering should be involved in AI. I truly stand by those words, and maybe we can explore that later.
Absolutely. Boyan?
Hi, guys. My name is Boyan. I'm the CTO of SIXT. And on the question, I would just go with what Ina said. I fully believe that as well.
Yeah? André?
Yeah, I'm Alf. I'm André. André from Bechtle, and yeah, I'm in IT since 25 years, and I'm with Bechtle since 13 years. Bechtle is the largest IT system house in Germany with 15,000 employees, and we do around 4 billion in revenue, and only the public sector segment. And yeah, I lead the platform engineering at Bechtle, and I'm part of a competence center with around 160 people between Bonn and Cologne, Germany.
Okay. If you've seen, there's also an online version of this event. There's also one in New York tomorrow. So as one of the virtual talks yesterday, Patrick Dubois, do we know, kind of inventor of at least the term DevOps and kind of the core behind it, was making this argument or this talking about this process that we're going to go from platform engineering, which does feel like at a lot of companies, they still haven't even figured out DevOps, and then moving towards this idea of the AI platform, which involves infrastructure, enablement, and governance, which I think we all believe is a crucial part of any platform engineering program. So it would also should be any part of an AI platform. So where do you see, we were talking about this over lunch, that can platform engineering help organizations more safely adopt AI, and how do you get involved with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So being part of a startup company for about 2 years now, I guess my role has to shift and adapt. So as a platform engineer, I'm responsible for a bunch of the automations, but I'm also having to wear the multiple hats, like that of security, that of compliance, that of governance, and still automation, and still being a developer, and still helping out my other engineers to resolve their problems, so I have to be on support. So I think the answer to your question here as well is the way that we essentially enable AI with platform engineering is by leaning a little bit more into the governance and a little bit more into the security. How do we use those controls to essentially guide and navigate this new space that we're in? Because it's new for all of us. Maybe not so much for every single one. Maybe some people are a lot more advanced. However, the question still stands. We have no guardrails that actually are there ready for us to use and lean on. So we have to create them. And right now, probably each one of us is creating them for their own team, for their own company.
When we talk about guardrails, something that kind of inherently drives them is policy. Raise your hand if your company has or organization, could be an NGO, et cetera, has an AI governance policy or some sort of AI policy. It's not even half, but I appreciate those that raised their hands, so thank you. That's really important. So André, you clearly work in a hopefully, we kind of hope one of the most regulated fields. So how do you think platform engineering might build that safety and security that enables you to experiment with AI in defense?
Yeah. So now the German again has to complain. Yeah. So definitely in the regulated environments, first of all, you have to trust AI. Yeah. And I think also the scenarios we are in, it's very difficult for customers to even provision AI solutions, as they're not allowed to use publicly available AI solutions, yeah? So you cannot just go for AWS Bedrock API or whatever and utilize this. So what actually right now we do is we build custom-tailored AI platforms on premises, yeah? And this is then maybe hardware, GPU clusters, we put NVIDIA Enterprise AI on top of it, and these kind of things to even enable customers to use inference microservices, for instance, in their environment. Yeah? So we are in a very early stage, but I think a lot of things will come.
Okay. Another question for the audience, because I'm going to make you do your work so you don't fall asleep this late in the day. And I already forgot. Are you nervous, since platform engineering is one of those teams kind of that can fall to this last hired, first fired syndrome, where you're still, the goal, one of the goals of platform engineering that was talked about in the opening panel today is that, and something Gregor talked about later, is something that it becomes this bridge to overcome that famous chasm between technology and business, and this idea that, well, business doesn't really understand what tech's doing, but wow, those are expensive cloud bills, and dang, those are some really expensive engineers we're hiring. So what do? And then the opposite side, that it brings purpose, business purpose, to the work of engineering. Hopefully they feel more connected to those OKRs or KPIs, et cetera. So I just want to get an arm up if it's a safe zone. I think only we're getting recorded anyway. Is anyone afraid that AI budget is going to take away the budget for platform engineering? Okay. Thank you, brave souls. Is anyone thinking that AI is what's going to get the budget for platform engineering? Okay, interesting. So when we're talking about this idea that we need this budget, and what are we spending it on? So as we're looking towards the different capabilities or features need to be built into an IDP to enable AI, I think it feels like your organization felt the most experimental. If you want to talk about that, what are some features, I don't know if it's around data or security, or what are you building into an IDP to enable AI?
Yeah, we definitely are applied science organization, not that much R&D for sure, because the mission is the business, the mission is the customer experience for us. What are we getting those budgets for? So as we're getting a lot of things on the ground and a lot of more teams, and as I've been talking earlier, we are moving most of the agentic Gen AI workflows closer and closer into the engineering teams as part of their day-to-day. We have to build those golden paths, as we've done with many other things. If I look from a platform engineering perspective, so that they can ship things as quickly as possible. And as you pointed out, accuracy, governance, quality, they're very important, as has been before. LLMs come with maybe different building blocks that you have, like you need to have those evals in there, you need to have those LLM gateways, you need to have cost control, you need to have some security patterns as well, what kind of data is being used where, how is it going? And you have to centralize some of it, otherwise you'll never win, right? Especially once you move beyond your first 2, 3, 4 pet projects. And we're definitely spending a lot of time into that, a lot of money as well. So we are investing more into our platform engineering teams to be able to handle this. At the same time, we're investing heavily in our product engineering teams so that they get quicker educated and are able to understand this technology better and adopt it in their day-to-day, because we see massive value. So I would say right now it's 50-50 if you ask me how we split our investments. we bet on both horses.
Yeah. And then, Ina, how do you get, if we're combining potentially, I'm not suggesting we do that, but if we're theorizing around this idea of an AI-enabled platform and internal developer platform, it's already getting a lot and in a mouthful. So how do you factor in the needs of maybe a data scientist or other parts of the business? Because AI's not going to be that useful if it's just for developers. So how do you bring them into the platform, all these other stakeholders?
Well, if I have to be truthful, they came to us wanting to be at the forefront of things, which is actually lucky for us. If you look at it on the positive side, if you look at it on the negative side, it's overwhelming. And I think a lot of us might be facing that situation where it is just like way too many things to think about. I would say that we do, so as platform engineers, ultimately we're trying to gain control. We're trying to keep that to ourselves. But what we're experimenting with right now within the team I'm working with is we're actually trying to give away the control. We're trying to let people experiment and just sit back and observe what are the new tools that they like, what are the new patterns that they want to explore, and eventually they will merge, like those things will emerge on their own. And we would like to be able to support those new emerging patterns. I guess that's our strategy right now. We don't know if it's going to work because it's new, but that's kind of where we're at.
And then you're kind of facilitating the conversations between departments. So if you find the thing you want to make part of your golden paths?
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, it's not one golden path for all of our engineers. We have data scientists, we have traders, we have quants, we have actual app engineers, we have now AI engineers, we have backend engineers, we have all sorts of engineers, and they all have different golden paths. So we want to be able to provide multiple versions of the same platform to each one of them. And we want to be enabling them to use AI in such a way that it speeds them up, and we're not the way or the reason why they can't, because then we're quickly going to make ourselves the least popular team in the company.
And the idea of platform engineering is that it's not mandatory.
Exactly.
It's developers want to use it.
Exactly. We're there to service them. We're there to help them, not for us to mandate at all times how things should be. If we put on the security hat, then absolutely mandate away.
Okay. I want to approach every person here with this question because we are working in a time, maybe not in your industry, André, but where everyone's working with limited budgets. And this idea, and no matter what, you have this limited team that can only accomplish so much at once because you don't want to take on everything. So how do you choose? Because one of the the double-sided sword of platform engineering is you always have this amazing backlog. You have excited, interested customers. You have the tightest feedback loop possible with your customers. So you always have ideas. So I would like to ask each of you, how do you prioritize, especially when you have this new deluge of AI, but all the other platform engineering things too? How do you prioritize as a team? André, do you want to start?
I think also in environments where the budget is not that important, you have to know sometimes it's not helping you to just throw more money in because it's not solving any problem. Yeah? It's maybe even causing more problems. Yeah? And I think it really makes sense to enable platform engineering teams also through AI. Yeah? So if we think of the very simple use cases, yeah? Having an AI code assistant for doing infrastructure as code stuff like Terraform and so on. These are little helpers for the team that can really also accelerate everything. Yeah? And it's nothing that has to do with money. It's just culture. It's process, yeah, and this is how I see the world. But I'm also an external service provider, so I have a totally different perspective, yeah. And
yeah. But you have budgets and limitations too. Typically,
absolutely.
Scope certainly is a big one as a consultant.
Absolutely. We most of the time only act as an enabler. People come to us if they don't know anymore how to solve problems, yeah? And we have to get better and better every day. Yeah? So people are not paying us for prompting any stuff and making paper black. Yeah? They want engineering expertise to solve really crazy problems. Yeah?
Fair enough. Boyan, same question. How do you balance, and even if you have suggestions for the audience of where to start mixing AI in with your platform?
I guess I would go as esoteric here. I honestly don't have any difference in terms of how I would invest business-wise, in terms of features, in terms of markets, versus how I would go about technology. It's kind of the same machine that runs in my head. What is the opportunity? What is the risk? What is the investment I need to put behind it? And it's a bet in the end of the day. And that's how we go. I try to bet big on things which are promising a big return if we get them right, even if also the investment is sizable. For example, we spend years in building, we speak a lot about backend, but actually at SIXT we spent years in building mobile and web platforms, pretty potent ones with very complicated design systems behind them. And a couple of engineers came up with a way how they can basically generate from Figma, from design, pixel perfect screens with all the components wired and spatially positioned, which means that in the end, translate to business, a work that in the past would take a couple of days for a senior engineer can be done in 10 minutes. And that's the work that nobody likes doing because it's where you're looking at the design and trying to get this thing to look exactly like the designer wanted to do it. That is brainless work, right? In many cases. For us, it's much more interesting and important to focus on the business problems, on wiring those things, on making them work and have the experience feel as we want, which is where the most of the complexity is. So when you see something like this, you bet big because obviously what is behind it is huge for the organization, for we can ship things. Same goes for our back office platform. If my end users are able to go and say, hey, I want this table, that table, and it generates a back office admin tool for them, which in the past they had to wait for engineering teams to, in their spare time or in their coffee break, create for them because they have more important things to do. Again, you bet big because that unlocks massive amount of capabilities. If we look at platform engineering team, when the platform engineering team came and said, hey, you know what? Everything we do, and again, that's a very specific example, is gRPC internally. If we snap this gateway in front of it, it would mean that we can turn every single application we have into MCP-capable application without touching any line of code, and which means that on the other side, our data science or product engineering teams can use their AI frameworks of choice of today and just integrate seamlessly, MCP-wise, whatever you guys think about that. Again, you go in. So when you see those big bets, we usually just go behind them. And some of them pay out, some don't. But so to speak, when I look back and I see the net result, ROI-wise, it looks pretty positive.
And then how are you then with these big new ideas? MCP is like the hottest new word. It's platform engineering of 3 years ago. But how are you educating your developers on these new tools? Because you're implementing these new exciting AI ideas, but how are you getting them onboarded? How are you training them or educating them how to use this AI? Boyan?
We try to create the space for it, right? Because in the end, you have people in every organization who would be on those things anyway. You don't use them, but they are doing it at home. And every organization has those people, and you need that. There you don't need to do anything. It's just there. For the rest, there are people who are interested, but they don't have the time because every organization is always busy. It doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter the resources. You have things for the next 10 years to do, right? It's just how it is. You never find space. So as a leader, and that's not only me, the rest of our leadership team at SIXT stands behind it, we push for some of that innovation by creating projects, opportunities, or bringing up, that's I guess our favorite way. There are always those challenges where you failed before, and now we are okay. It sounds like this technology might solve this challenge, so let's give another crack on it, right? Again, very risky, but big returns. And that takes other piece of your organization. And for the, let's say, the most lagging part of it, there you have the normal trainings, the slow churn of, hey, this thing is happening, we are going on this journey. For some is a day, for some is a week, for some is a month, and there are a few guys or teams which take another year. Because for them, maybe this technology on the maturity level of today is just not moving anything. And we also don't want to throw hype into our teams when we don't see any return, so we let them be as soon as that equation is true. Of course, if somebody's completely forgotten and the ship has left the station and they are not on that ship, that's a different measure as well. But honestly, in technology and in engineering, we rarely see that. Obviously, it's more, everybody wants to have the greatest and the latest now, and it's more stopping this a little bit and trying to sequence it versus the other way around.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about a scale-up, like what you work at, where you may be onboarding a lot more than engineering or even data science, how do you pick and choose?
Well, I guess the biggest difference is that a startup or a scale-up is about survival. So you have to bet your only, let's put it this way, you have to bet your only horse on this one thing, or like whatever the saying is. So you don't really get a lot of choices in terms of, do I bet a little bit here and maybe a little bit here? No, we went all in. And the reason why we went all in is because we see the enablement that it does for our business and for our customers and for the services that we're aiming to build and to disrupt like a given industry. We're trying to make sure that we can do it faster than anyone else. So AI obviously enables us to do that. So that solves the prioritization problem for us. But as Boyan said before, it is actually the case where you have a never-ending backlog, especially as platform engineers. There's always something to improve. There's always something to refactor, something to fix, some security issue that needs your attention, some vulnerability that needs management. We actually focus on that as platform engineers a lot more nowadays because we need to make sure that we have that reign. We need to make sure that we have full visibility over what are the challenges that we might face if we introduce suddenly a lot more code, a lot more features, a lot more, anything that's AI enabled will just expand that. What's the word? It will just expand how many of those things we need to keep our eyes open for. So, yeah.
And I would honestly advocate for, when talking about especially AI adoption in your platform, please be boring. I was speaking to the chief AI officer at SAP last week. The #1 use case of adoption in their whole platform is scanning receipts. The #1 thing I've heard developers complain about for the last 15 years is documentation, but it's the #1 thing developers don't typically want to contribute to. Last 10 years, it's been usually cloud complexibility-driven technical debt, but definitely technical debt. AI is very good at explaining things or helping you explain things. So go for the boring before the shiny, I would advocate for, which may be unpopular here.
I totally agree with what you said. Yeah? So I think there's also a big expectation gap on the market, yeah, because you see all the shiny stuff, cool use cases, yeah, and people should, from my perspective, first of all, try to solve simple things, yeah, and AI is really helping good, I would say, already nowadays, yeah, and I see people utilizing AI for the totally wrong use cases, yeah, and really diving first of all into what could be a use case, what do I maybe need to do every day, what do I want to get away from my desk, yeah, to be done by AI. I would all the time start like that, because when I, as an external service provider, come into organizations, I always see that in the management boards, you have the shiny thing like AI will rescue the world, yeah. And then in the engine room, people manually ship stuff, yeah. And that's what I see.
Yeah, full circle from this morning's talk. Platform engineering was created to reduce toil to help enable developers to deliver value faster, which means AI for the boring is fun. So as you look at this, so we've gone through this switch from shadow IT to shadow AI. So we've got this idea that, oh, we don't know what AI, clearly we don't have a lot of policies still 3 years into this around AI communicated policies. And we have this whole now shadow AI, that developers want to use AI and they're going to use it. They don't mind paying 20 quid a month for ChatGPT if they have to out of pocket on their own phones, their own internet, if you don't provide them. So how are you, as people in platform engineering leadership, staying up to date when there is just a breadth of things to learn constantly? And how are you, instead of looking at it as shadow AI, looking at it as an opportunity to learn from your developers of what they're liking to play with? That's kind of how Kubernetes first got adopted, and open source in general. So how are you opening this and this conversation and getting feedback from your developers? I'll let whoever wants to popcorn it first.
I think it's a tough question.
Is anyone running developer surveys?
I'll start. We're running developer surveys, and we recently made a bet on, let's say, using Cursor. And previously we saw, let's say last year, when we ran the same survey across our developers and every type of engineer, we saw that people were using probably about 10 different IDEs. And then Cursor came out and got really popular, and we saw about 60% of everyone just swapped to that. And we're like, we're going to jump to that opportunity. Yeah. This is a clear signal. They clearly want that. So we as platform engineers, we want to be on their good side. We want to be able to work with them to develop a platform that they're happy to use. They'll come to us with their problems. So we kind of said, okay, everyone, please go ahead and use that. If you want to use something else, now that will be the outlier, or you should have a really good reason to do so. I'm going to phrase my answer in two separate parts, so I'll let other people speak first.
Yeah.
Or no, go André.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So a big KPI for me is always how well will different teams work together. Yeah. So and it's nothing you can really put into numbers most of the time. Yeah, I would say. And what I see is that from an operational perspective, you also explain the AI guys, I call them the AI guys, yeah, what kind of operational iceberg you take away from them, yeah, and also explain them your work. It will bring the teams together, because everybody's only talking about physics, about physicians, yeah, doing great models and doing this and rescuing the world. But at the end, the guys operating all the stuff, yeah, they also want to be seen, yeah, and then really bringing the teams together and explaining also the AI teams, hey guys, it's not enough that you know how a Helm chart looks like, yeah, there's much more behind the scenes, and this also gave us a good push forward, and also the teams collaborated much better with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, platform engineering isn't to completely block information from developers, because you have to build trust and they want to know what's going on under the hood. Boyan, how do you know you're building what developers want and you're making the right AI choices?
Time will tell.
Any metrics or
So
questions?
yeah, exactly. Just give me 1 second to go, maybe with the right analogy here. Yeah, I guess few of us go to the gym just because they love spending 1 or 2 hours, 5-6 days a week. Many of us probably go there because they want to look good. Some of us clearly fail in that. But the point is, it's about results. It's about outcomes, big, high-order outcomes. And it's equally true in any business, in any experience or service you're trying to create. So coming back to your question with this, and that's the analogy I have in my head, I guess. We don't do AI because of AI. When somebody comes and says, I would love to do X because X, the answer is no. There is not even a discussion there. It's more about, I'm creating this thing, I'm building this experience, I'm making this better, and I'm planning to use X to do it for those advantages. And then we discuss, then we talk. Do we have Y and Z that do the same thing? No, etc. Go. Let's see, let's agree how we're gonna measure this thing. And it doesn't have to be the percentage or the answer is 47.352, and only then we are okay. No, it's more, we still can agree about some qualitative and quantitative ways to describe how the world will be better today versus tomorrow. And then we check if that's really the way to go about it or not. And this is the same when you go for a language framework, when you go for your favorite CI/CD pipeline behind it. There are many ways to go around it. And as far as the ROI is there, the experience is there. For me, again, experience stays difficult to explain, but I hope you get it. Everybody, each of us have some of that. When it's frictionless, when it really gets the job done, and it helps us to get to these high order results, then we go for this choice. Some of those choices, they live with us for a long time. Like, I don't know, when we had to do orchestration, just maybe to take a decade back, it was Mesos, it was back in the day Nomad, and a bunch of other things. Kubernetes was alpha. But because we liked the architecture, it came so much closer to what we wanted to do and how we thought about the problem. We chose and we bet big on Kubernetes, and that worked fantastically well. We're still using it. Could have gone horribly wrong, right? We have had made also bets which failed. And I think the quirks are, when we are doing some of those bets, what is the blast radius of those things? How easy can we change course? Is it a two-way or a one-way door? And as long as we can go and say, we can replace this thing, we can go from, I don't know, Jenkins to GitHub Actions, from this to something else, and nobody else from the engineering teams have to do anything, then I'm all game for him. If you tell me 800 people have to change X, Y, Z, and then it's going to be fine, nope. Something is missing there. It's a bit more difficult choice, and then we have to spend more time. But I would say, roughly, this is the framework that we use.
Okay. Ina, you had one last point, and then we'll wrap up, right?
Yeah, basically, I think everything that both André and Boyan have said, I would completely agree with. And I would just add, from a small company's perspective, we'd love to get there. We'd love to get there. But how we get there is through that experimentation and, exactly as Boyan said, making the bet, and then time will tell. Like, you will see whether that was actually successful. But for a scale-up SaaS startup, it's always survive or die type of question. But that is kind of the beauty of the game.
Absolutely. And I hope when you're deciding those trade-offs, you consider the voice of your developer, or maybe that includes your data scientist, or whoever are your customers of your internal developer platform. Thank you all for joining us at PlatformCon, and go enjoy the nibbles and drinks and enjoy it. Thank you all.